Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose. Even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions free. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast.
It is the 30-something movie podcast. It's Monkey Business Month, and I've got a couple of fellow members of the Planet of the Apes here with me. First of all, Dr. Bo Zayas, Warmbold. Bo, how you doing?
Dr. Zayas.
It's the best musical ever. Somebody actually needs to go and produce some of these fictional musicals, like the Planet of the Apes musical and the Rogers musical. Actually, they did kind of produce a version of the Rogers musical. Yeah, they need to do more of that.
Bo, where are you casting pod from?
The basement.
Virtually.
Oh, I don't know. Some Google patio with lights and things that just fills me with zen.
It's very calming.
I am filling with your zen as well. Your zen is transferring through cyberspace, and
You guys might need to
it's very nice.
keep your zen to yourself.
Yeah.
Pat, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm having this moment of zen, enjoying Bo's virtual background
There you go.
and enjoying R2D2 casting pod with you.
Yes, sitting back here with me.
I've got nothing here. Well, actually, there's a couple of cats that might join the pod again. So,
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
That's
I
fine.
do like it when Doodle stops by.
yeah.
That's fine. Before we get started with Jumanji, which is the movie that we came to talk about here this time around, Pat, why don't you give, as much as possible, why don't you give the people your spoiler-free reaction, maybe in less than 60 seconds, to Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning.
Okay. Here's the best one for anybody that knows me well. I was wide awake for the entire movie. John didn't need to elbow me once to wake me up, or I wasn't even feeling like the eyes start to close.
Yep, I can attest to that.
It was,
In fact, you were
And if you
in
don't know Pat, take our word for it. That's impressive.
that's a
stuff.
miracle.
yeah, sometimes I don't even make the credits. I mean,
Yeah.
it was an awesome movie. It is an awesome movie. I can't wait to see it again. Okay, spoiler free. I thought what they showed you in that movie, what they did, had never been done before in Mission Impossible. Maybe never been done before in movies. I think it was incredible. I thought the story, the way they told the story and unfolded the characters and all that, I thought that was awesome. I kind of already just said this, but the stunts were amazing. Again, showing you stuff that we haven't seen before. And I mean, without doing too many spoilers, obviously there's no green screen and blue screen and all the other kinds of screens. I mean, it's just stunt people and Tom Cruise doing their thing. And I want to say that Issei Morales did some of his stunt work too. Again, I'm being very careful with spoilers, but that he was up there as well. I'm just going to say Tom Cruise looked really good. And I am, after walking out of that movie, I need to really rethink my fitness regime and all that kind of thing. By the time I hit whatever he is now, 63 or 64, I've got nothing but great things to say about the movie. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And I think they did it. They just did a great job with it. And, when they're all out on high definition Blu-ray and you can get the whole set, I'm going to be the first one to pick them up because they're just great movies. And this was just a wonderful, wonderful send off. And I think, like I just said before we hit record, they're calling it and going out very much on top. And I think that's awesome because, like, for me, like, guys keep making them, make 8 more. Like and I know that's not how creativity and all that works. I mean, I realize that, but it is just so incredible. It was not just, it was the movie, the story that they tell was so much more than just like the incredible stunts, was so much more than the some of the incredible acting talent that you had in the show. But it was a really compelling story. And I don't mean this in the, hey, ripped from the headlines kind of sense, but there were themes and thoughts and things that they present in there that I think would very much ring as authentic in our time period right now. So 30 years from now, when we're doing this movie for the pod, it'll be interesting to see how this movie kind of fits in. And if, oh man, you remember when we used to think that? Or, I mean, I might be telling my grandkids when they're watching it, like, just so you guys know, when they talk about this theme, that kind of fit in with what was going on. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
No, you don't, because I'm speaking like really generally. But I thought that it was a very compelling story that, like I said, rang as authentic in the current time period.
I'm just stuck on the idea that we're still going to be doing this in 30 years.
I know.
Right.
I know.
Hey,
I'm stuck
everybody,
on
it's the 30-something movie podcast. And yeah. So,
Hey,
Mission
man.
Impossible Dead Reckoning is final. Wait, no, final. I don't know. It's one of those movies. I can't remember
just
my own
telling you, man,
grandkids' names, much less Tom Cruise movies.
I'm telling you, I'm just stuck on how good Tom Cruise looks in that movie. I mean, that was like really outstanding.
What most people don't realize is during the filming of Interview with a Vampire, he actually became a vampire.
Is that what the secret is?
That's the only way to explain any of it.
Well,
I
tell
can't
you
disagree
this.
with that statement.
Mhm.
I mean,
I'll tell you this, going back even a little bit further, just in general, when we started this whole show, well, realistically, when you started this show and said, Pat, would you like to be on a podcast? And I'm like, what's a podcast? Oh, you do this, this, and this. Oh, you mean we're recording it? People are going to listen to our conversation? This is crazy.
You talk,
Anyways,
Pat. It'll be okay. You do it well.
Oh, perfect. But when we were talking about the movies of 84 and 85 and talking about how those years were just, I've got to be honest. I'm looking at the movies that are coming out this year. And John, I think I passed this remark. Well, I think we were texting and then passing that remark. There's about 4 or 5 absolutely incredible movies that look like they're going to be coming out this summer. And that was not even counting the ones that, like, I saw in the movie posters as we were walking in.
Yeah.
Like we were walking in, it was like, oh man, that movie and that movie and that. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really great movies going to be coming out.
Yeah. And I can attest, as kind of a final comment on the Mission Impossible and going to see it with Pat, I can attest, Pat literally for a few scenes was on the edge of his seat. Like that.
Yeah,
that's how I knew. I knew he was awake anyway, because I'd glance over like, do I get a chance to hit Pat? No. Man, he's still awake. Okay. But then there were a few times where I knew Pat was awake because he literally was like moving. We were in like those big comfy recliners that they have in all the movie theaters now. And he is literally on the edge of his seat. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, no, I guess I don't have to guess if Pat's awake because we are fully locked into the screen now.
I was gonna put the chair on recline like at 2 or 3 points, and I was like, no, I can't. I got to sit forward on this. This is incredible.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, it was really, really good. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, highly, highly recommend that you go see it on probably the biggest screen possible. Like there are quite a few scenes, and I would be interested if it's playing in IMAX anywhere. I think that'd be another great way to go see it.
Yeah, and how cool was it that? Okay, maybe this is a spoiler, but you get a little message from Tom before the movie starts.
You do, and I really like that they've been doing that with more and more movies lately. It's like every time I've gone to the movies lately, they always do a little thing at the beginning. They used to do that kind of sporadically, like some of the actors would show up beforehand and be like, "Hey, I'm so and so. I'm in this movie. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it," and all that. I want to say every movie I've been to in the last maybe year or so has had that, and I think it's like a really nice touch.
Yeah. And I mean, we've talked about how do you get people into theaters and how do you, and yeah, I'm a fanboy, so I'm going to say Tom Cruise. But I mean, like, it's like that. You build the culture around. It's really fun to just go out and see a movie out on the big screen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think all those little bits help.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, speaking of a movie that was probably one that, while it's totally fine to watch on smaller screens, I feel like this movie was designed for the theater. Between the audio, between the visuals, between all the like big set pieces and stampedes and whatnot, Jumanji is another one that you probably want to see this on the biggest screen possible if you can. So I ended up, I've seen this movie multiple times before, but I ended up watching it this time on my phone. And while that was passable, definitely not the same as watching it, at least on a bigger TV screen at home. But, from what I remember seeing it in the theater, it was a lot of fun to watch. So Jumanji is our movie this time around. But before we get there, just going to remind you that we do spoil. So if we start to talk about a movie, if we mention a movie title, you may just want to hit that little skip button a couple times just to get past it. We won't hover too long on that. And then make sure you visit our website, 30podcast.com. It's got places where you can leave a rating for our show, leave us a voicemail. You could become a co-executive producer via Patreon, where we've got all kinds of bonus episodes over there. There are some episodes you can get for free, but there's also some that are in the donor feed. So if you become one of our co-executive producers, there's all kinds of extra benefits going on over there as well. Before we get into this is our first episode of the month of June. We are calling this one Monkey Business Month because all of our movies, I think, yes, pretty much all of our movies, highly feature monkeys, either in the title or somewhere in the film. But before we get into that, first episode of the month, we always like to hop in the DeLorean, set our time circuits to this month in 95. So we're going to jump back for just a moment to June of 1995.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious.
All right, top news. On June 13th, isn't it ironic? Jagged Little Pill, the third studio album by Alanis Morissette, is released. Also won Grammy Award Album of the Year. And actually, that is, from what I can recall, I want to say maybe that was the last time I purchased a CD in the Sam Goody music store that we had at our mall. I don't recall purchasing any other CDs at the Sam Goody store before it closed down. And then after that, it was probably at the music store when I went to... Actually, you know what? Probably it was at either a Best Buy or somewhere else, and then eventually at the little music store that was, where I went to college and whatnot. But I feel like that was the last album I purchased at the Sam Goody music store in the mall.
It's a great album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was definitely on repeat quite a bit. Top sports, June 4th of 1995, New Zealand creates a world record score for a rugby union international game by thrashing Japan 145-17 in the World Cup.
Thrashing, you say?
Thrashing.
Wow.
145-17.
Wow.
That is an absolute thrashing.
Awesome.
That's it. That's kind of, that's insane. Top books were The Rainmaker by John Grisham and The Bridges of Madison County by Robert James Waller. Top movies were, there was a movie for each week in this month. So top movies were Casper, Congo, Batman Forever, and Pocahontas. Top song was Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman by Bryan Adams. All right. Our trivia pursuits. This one came out on December 15th, 1995, rated PG, with a runtime of 1 hour, 44 minutes. Directed by Joe Johnston, who did Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Captain America, the First Avenger, and The Rock-a-Who. Writers were John...
Let's read the papers.
Sometimes, but we actually canceled our subscription because we were having delivery issues, and we love getting the newspaper, but we were just having some issues. Jonathan Hensley, Greg Taylor, and Jim Strain were the writers for this one. Hensley did Die Hard with a Vengeance and Armageddon. Taylor did Prancer and the Santa Claus 2, and Strain did The Incredible Hulk Returns and Space Camp. Producers were Scott Krupp and William Teitler. Krupp did Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Dragonheart, and Teitler did The Polar Express and Zathura, A Space Adventure. Composer was James Horner. He did Titanic, Braveheart, and The Rocketeer. Cinematographer was Thomas E. Ackerman, did Beetlejuice and George of the Jungle. Editor was Robert Dalva, who did The Black Stallion and Jurassic Park 3. And then production company was Interscope Communications and Teitler Films. Budget was $65 million. Box office was $262.8 million. So it did okay.
Just all right,
Just all right, yeah. And then Flickmetrics gives this one a 66%, but CinemaScore gives it an A-. Starring Robin Williams, who passed in 2014. He played Alan Parrish. He was in Dead Poets Society and Good Will Hunting. Kirsten Dunst played Judy Shepard. She was in Spider-Man and Interview with the Vampire. Bradley Pierce played Peter Shepard. He was the voice of Chip in Beauty and the Beast, and he was also in The Borrowers. Bonnie Hunt was Sarah Whittle. She was in The Green Mile and Cheaper by the Dozen. Jonathan Hyde was Sam Parrish and Van Pelt. He was in Titanic and Anaconda. Bebe Neuwirth was Nora Shepard. She was in Chicago and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. David Alan Greer was Carl Bentley. He was in Boomerang and Blankman. Adam Hahn Bird played young Alan Parrish. He was in Little Man Tate and The Ice Storm. Laura Bell Bundy played young Sarah Whittle. She was in Legally Blonde and Dreamgirls. Patricia Clarkson played Carol Ann Parrish. She was in The Green Mile and Shutter Island. James Handy was the Exterminator. He was in Arachnophobia and Unbreakable. Oh, a little typecasting.
Yeah.
Arachnophobia as an exterminator. And then Jillian Barber played Mrs. Thomas. She was in The X-Files and Stargate SG-1. All right. A couple just quick little trivia things here. A couple funny things from Robin Williams. He had commented that acting alongside CGI was a little bit like taking LSD because you had to hallucinate everything. So having to pretend that you were interacting with animals and things that really weren't there. It's like, well, that's a little bit like LSD. You just got to pretend. It's got to pretend stuff is there. Pretend you're hallucinating.
I guess I can see the correlation.
Yeah. And then one of the other things that I thought was kind of fun, there were a couple things related to Robin Williams with this one, because obviously he's such a big personality. The people of the town, Keene, New Hampshire, is where this was filmed, that basically the town fell in love with Robin Williams while he was there filming this. The mayor gave him the keys to the city. As you do. Mayor gave him keys to the city, and then when he died in 2014, there's the Parish Shoes sign is still there, or was still there as of a few years ago. And when he's in 2014, a lot of people left memorials, flowers, cards, things like that at the Parish Shoes sign in town at the time of his death. And then one of the last things I was going to mention real quick is Joe Johnston actually did not want to cast Robin Williams because he had a bit of a reputation for being, let's say, difficult to direct, and not difficult to direct in a, like, he's mean and he's a prima donna and he's anything like that. Difficult to direct as in he likes to improvise. And Joe Johnston had a very set, like, this is the story. This is the script. We kind of need to stay within the story and within the script. And so apparently they had a conversation, and Robin Williams basically said, I get this. It's a structured story. I will film the scenes as outlined in the script, but some of the other scenes, like some of the stuff where he's talking with Bonnie Hunt, Joe Johnston would let him kind of improvise some of those bits, and they would film. It sounded like they might have filmed a kind of structured, scripted version, but then he'd also be like, okay, now we're going to do a couple of scenes where you just kind of, do your riff, like do your thing. And so it sounds like Robin Williams, kind of was agreeable to that. I think he was interested enough in being in the movie that he was like, hey, I get it. I will rein in my usual manic self, and I'll stay within the boundaries on this one. So, all right. So real quick, I'll do the synopsis. We'll do some major moments, and then we'll get into our deeper thoughts and talking about what we remember about this movie. In a quiet town, young Alan Parrish disappears into a mysterious board game, and 26 years later, siblings Judy and Peter rediscover the game, releasing Alan and a jungle of chaos. Joined by Sarah, the girl Alan played the game with years ago, they have to finish the game to restore order. Welcome to Jumanji, where the game plays you.
I'm glad you decided to buy this place. I'm sure that you and your kids will be very happy here.
Every house has secrets.
Everybody in town thinks the place is haunted.
But what happened in this house
Little Alan Parrish. He just vanished about 25 years ago.
is a mystery that began a long time ago when Alan Parrish was just a young boy who made an incredible discovery.
Jumanji. You want to play? Alan, look. In the jungle, you must wait until the dice read 5 or 8. What's happening here?
26 years later, Peter and Judy Shepard are about to play the same game and make an incredible discovery of their own.
Are you Alan Parrish?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Everyone thought you were dead.
Now,
Never shaved before.
they must roll the dice
You're playing the game I started in 1969. I'm gonna have to play.
and finish the game together.
It's not my turn.
Whose turn is it?
Sarah Whittle? Alan. 26 years ago, we started playing a little game.
Whoa, God, no! Alan, I have spent over 2,000 hours in therapy convincing myself that this doesn't exist.
Sarah, we're all gonna sit down. We're gonna finish it.
Now for an update on the extraordinary events unfolding in Brantford, New Hampshire.
TriStar Pictures presents Robin Williams, Jumanji.
All right, so the major moments for this one. Young Alan Parrish lives in Brantford, New Hampshire. Actually, the movie starts off about, what is it, about 100 years? I think it was like 1869 is how the movie starts. And actually, I didn't really remember that beginning of it. I kind of just remember him as a kid riding his bike through the town. I guess either I had kind of forgotten that we actually start the movie off 100 years before, if I've got the year right.
Mhm.
And then show that, you know, it gets buried, and so obviously that's how he ends up finding it in the construction site. He's bullied by these other kids and chased by them, and ends up hiding in his father's shoe factory, where his friend Carl is kind of unfairly fired because of an accident with a prototype shoe that Alan accidentally put on a conveyor belt, and it messed up one of the machines. And then as he is on his way home, he's hearing some mysterious drum beats, and he discovers and unearths the Jumanji board game at a construction site and then takes it home with him. That evening,
Those drum beats are
Oh, yeah.
very. I'm gonna try not to interrupt. A lot.
No, go.
Those drum beats are really effective.
Oh, yeah.
Every time and even on this rewatch, it was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like that's just a really cool. I dig it, man.
Oh,
I
yeah.
dig it.
Yeah. It's a good audible cue to know, you know,
Yeah.
either something creepy is about to happen, or yeah. Alan ends up arguing with his father back at home later that night because they have plans to send him to a boys' boarding school, which he is not very excited about, and he doesn't seem to have a great relationship with his dad. So they argue, and, you know, Alan kind of decides that, you know, maybe he's going to run away. His friend Sarah, though, returns his bike that got stolen by her quote-unquote boyfriend, and he convinces her to play the game with him. As they begin, Alan rolls a number that traps him inside the game until someone rolls a 5 or an 8, and terrified, Sarah flees the house after a swarm of bats emerge and chase her out of the house. 26 years later, Judy and Peter Shepard move into the abandoned parish mansion with their Aunt Nora. After discovering Jumanji in the attic, they begin playing, and that starts to unleash giant mosquitoes at first, and then eventually some monkeys, and then realizing that they're going to have to keep playing the game to undo some of this chaos, they continue. And I was telling Bo earlier before we started recording that I always get very excited whenever there's an opportunity to bring out one of my favorite scenes, one of my favorite little snippets from The Simpsons. And it's the moment at which these monkeys are in the kitchen, and
Mhm.
one of the monkeys picks up some knives and starts throwing them. And anytime I think of a monkey with a knife in its hands, I think of the monkey knife fight from The Simpsons.
You'll never know the simple joys of a monkey knife fight.
Give it to him, boy! Give it to him!
Oh, Furious George. What have they done to your beautiful face? Smithers, this monkey's going to need most of your skin.
Yes. Simple joys of a monkey knife fight. So Peter rolls a 5, and that ends up freeing Alan as an adult. As they are kind of on the run from all the craziness that's happening, they meet up with Carl again. He is now a police officer. And they revisit the shuttered shoe factory. Alan learns that his father spent years searching for him, although there was a story that the father or the parents murdered him and chopped up his body and just caused a lot of trauma for their family, which led to the factory's downfall because his father had spent all those years searching for him, and the town really kind of was hit economically and collapsed, and so really hasn't been doing very well since that time. Alan decides to join Judy and Peter in finishing the game so they can set things right. The trio then tracks down Sarah, who is now a recluse, traumatized by past events, and she is now going by, what was it? Was Madame Serena?
Mm-hmm.
The psychic? Yeah. Do you think she'll know where Sarah is? Well, of course she will. She's psychic.
She's psychic.
They do end up persuading her to help finish the game. Alan's next turn releases Van Pelt, a hunter from the game's jungle world, and the group is forced to run away from him as each turn then causes more and more chaos. There was one line that, and what we were watching a movie, one of our movies more recently had a similar line in it as well. When Van Pelt goes to get a replacement gun at the gun and ammo store, and they ask him, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, this didn't age well, but the guy that owns the gun shop asks him, "You're not a postal worker, are you?"
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. So anybody who is younger than us but may not be aware that starting in the 1990s, actually I looked this up and it started in 1993. In the early 90s, there was kind of a rash of mass shootings, particularly at post offices. Like that was something that was in the news. I remember that as a kid, of hearing that on the news, that disgruntled and angry postal workers were going in and shooting up their workplaces and killing coworkers. And it got to be kind of a running story in the news. And that's where I really doubt that that's a phrase that any kids or anybody that's too young would know today. But the whole idea of going postal.
Oh, that was the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a line.
Yeah. If you seemed like you were unreasonably angry, then you were referred to as going postal. And so that was kind of a bit of the vernacular back at the time.
Well, cue the whole, man, how things can change in 30 years, right?
Right.
And it really, yeah, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but that's
yeah. But I thought that was
looking back on that
was interesting because I figured I think my kids have seen this movie. I think we watched it several years ago, but I would imagine that line would mean nothing to them. They would think it's probably just some weird question like, "You're not a postal worker, are you?" Like, well, why would you ask that? I would imagine my kids were young enough that we just completely glossed over that line and they wouldn't have even wondered why that was being said. But this time around watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, that particular reference doesn't necessarily age well.
No.
Sarah rolls and triggers a stampede of wild animals. In the chaos, a pelican steals the game. Peter manages to retrieve it, but Alan is arrested by Carl, still unaware of his true identity. Meanwhile, Van Pelt gets his hands on the board game. I'm trying to remember exactly where it is, but there was one other little trivia thing in here. There's the scene where Aunt Nora is on her way back. She's driving back to town, and it's the part right before her car gets hijacked by one of the monkeys that she stops, and all of a sudden the stampede goes running in front of her in the intersection that she stopped at. And there is a scene where at the very end of that stampede, and I always thought it was kind of funny, even as a kid, there's one rhinoceros that is way behind, like lagging way behind everybody else. And it's kind of making like these little like wheezing and grunting noises. Like it, that's the one that, didn't necessarily make its mile time in gym class and had to like lag behind everybody else. I see you, rhinoceros. I understand you. I feel your pain.
Yes.
The funny thing about that is that was not meant to be in there. That was actually an animation mistake that there was the one rhinoceros that was completely separate from the rest of the pack. And in order to keep it in and add some humor, they added the like grunting and wheezing noises to make it sound like that particular rhinoceros was maybe not as fit as the rest of them.
That's outstanding.
So that was kind of fun.
So I'm curious, the animation was a mistake.
Yeah, that's something about the timing of when that, like when the rest of the Stampede, the pack of animals, was supposed to be staying together as a group, and then something about this one particular model of this one rhinoceros just did not. The timing was not right, and it was not with the rest of the pack. And yeah,
I'm gonna have to go back and watch that because in my mind, like I'm remembering it as it was doing something physical to make it seem like it was standing back from the pack, but now from what you're telling me is no, it wasn't anything different other than it was by itself, and they changed the audio.
Right.
So it's a case. What I'm getting at is it's a case of I was seeing with my ears. I want to go back and rewatch that and just how Anyways, sorry.
And I think it's absolutely hilarious. Like I thought it was funny as a kid. I thought it was funny as an adult. It's what Bob Ross would refer to as a happy little accident.
Yeah.
Well,
these happy little trees.
Happy little rhinoceroses. Wheezy little rhinoceroses.
Wheezy.
I'm coming. Peter, Sarah, and Judy track Van Pelt down to a discount store. After a frantic battle, they recover the game, and Alan reveals his identity to Carl, who then releases him, and the group ends up reuniting to continue the mission. Back at the mansion, each player takes their turn releasing natural disasters galore and creatures that ravage the house. Peter is briefly transformed into a monkey due to some cheating scandal in the Jumanji world. And then an earthquake splits the house in two. So we end up, this is going to be a really, really, really narrow reference that only a certain number of people are going to get. But the house basically becomes the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum in Branson, Missouri. As it splits in half. As chaos peaks, Alan rolls the final dice. And with his final roll, the game ends, reversing all of its effects. Alan and Sarah are transported back to 1969 just after the game initially started. Alan makes peace with his father and takes responsibility for the shoe incident, and that ensures that Carl is not fired. And then in 1994, we're going to fast forward a little bit. In 1994, Alan and Sarah are now married, expecting a child. Alan is also, seems like he's running part of the dad's business. And maybe it's Carl's, that prototype design that Carl had of the shoe. Sounds like that's their popular model they're talking about. They end up meeting Judy and Peter's family and convince them to cancel that ill-fated ski trip that caused them to pass away and leave the kids orphaned, and that saves their lives. Meanwhile, at the very, very end, Jumanji washes ashore on a beach, I believe in France, and you hear the drums again, hinting that the game's mischief is far from over. Those are the 10 major moments, and now it's time for some deeper thoughts.
And now, deep thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot.
Wow. It's very deep.
So, first time you saw this movie?
I feel like I'm a broken record on this one, but I'm going to say it anyway. HBO, Blockbuster, one of the two.
Okay.
Don't recall a theater trip to see it. I feel like we're in that sweet spot right now, for the Friday night movie rental and the pick up a pizza, pick up a movie, go home and love the 90s,
This was definitely a trip to the theater for us. I mean, our family was, anytime Robin Williams had something that came out that was the family was able to go see, it was definitely something we'd see in the theaters. And if it wasn't, then I think just my dad went. Good Morning Vietnam was not one I got to go see in the theater at the time, but I guarantee if it was...
And given your love for the movie, did you and your dad get to enjoy it together at some point?
Actually, I didn't get to see that movie until much later, but my dad loved the soundtrack so much that he bought it.
Oh.
And that tape mixed in some of the music from the movie with some of the Adrian Cronauer broadcasts. And so I just remember I stole the tape from my dad and I would listen to it over and over and over again to the point where I think at maybe age 12 I had it memorized. Maybe age 11 I had the whole thing memorized. So yes, that's where that started. The soundtrack was was much more on repeat before I ever got a chance to see the movie. But I guarantee if it was Hook, if it was Jumanji, if it was whatever, if it was something that was even, Lord help us, Toys, if it was something that was Robin Williams and it was rated at least PG or PG-13, then we were probably seeing it in the theater. So this was definitely a theater trip for us.
We haven't done Toys, right? Toys is coming out later.
We have not. I'm trying to remember exactly what year that was.
Well, judging by your last statement, I can't wait to discuss Toys then.
No, actually, we skipped that one.
Oh, did we?
I believe we did. It was 1992.
Oh, geez, that was a while ago. Okay.
So
I would not have bet that was that long ago either. That's interesting.
Yeah. Maybe we'll go back and revisit it at some point. But yeah, it was. I'll put it this way: it gets a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's funny we bring this one up. I would be interested to watch it as an adult and see if I feel differently about it.
Yeah,
I kind of like Toys.
The movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I honestly, I think we just kind of dismissed it when we watched it together as a family, and so I want to say I've seen it once.
Okay,
that's kind of where I'm at. I might have seen it a second time, like randomly, but
okay.
I wonder how I would react to that one as an adult.
It felt, as a kid, from what I remember, it felt like if you were going to watch something like this, just go watch Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like it felt like it was Robin Williams trying to be a Willy Wonka kind of a thing.
It did. It felt like they said, we want a modern day Willy Wonka. Here's our guy.
Yeah.
And then at some point there was a script rewrite and it fell apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least that's like my adult brain processing it. Like it feels like a lot of those movies we talk about where you hear about script rewrites and things that just go
right. Yeah.
I would be real curious. I would be real curious to know that level of it because obviously we haven't. I would love to get into the discussion of it and find out, well, they really wanted to do this, but then they went to this. And so this is what it ended up as. And I would just be interested in all that.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me to hear there were a bunch of rewrites on that because it's so weird.
Well, maybe I'll put it on for, maybe when we get to 2027, I'll put it on. That'll be the 35th anniversary.
There we go.
So
there we go.
I'll throw that on the list for that. We can do that as a Patreon or something.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Did I interrupt your reminiscence of watching this movie? I know you were talking about
no.
Family.
Just that we would have seen it in the theater. So that was, I guarantee this was a theater watch for us.
I'm really, this is getting fuzzy for me, and I don't know why. I don't know. We would have either seen
it's Robin
this as
Williams.
a family.
Robin Williams is a fuzzy guy.
This much is certain. We maybe saw this as a family and went to the theater for it. I could definitely see that. Or this could be one that we inexplicably skipped as a family. And I saw it with friends not much later. It had to have been in high school. And it was like, why have I never seen this? But I don't know. It's really kind of like, I just don't remember the first time I saw it. I saw it a long time ago, saw it as a kid. Yeah, loved it. I mean, it's just a great adventure movie. Fun story, happy ending. Robin Williams is amazing. The kids are amazing. Like all the, kids are amazing. The gal that plays the other lead is great. This stuff is, you get kind of freaked out like when he cheats and somebody's like, oh, you cheated. I mean, they really have a way, like with the way they shoot it with the camera, the way they put the music cues in there and all that. There's a gravitas to it, right? Yeah. Like it's like, whoa, this is a big deal. I love the scene when she's trying to get out of the game and he stabs the knife into the table. Just the look Robin Williams shows to like, we're finishing the game.
Yeah.
That's great. The comedy is funny without it being, okay, this is kind of kid-like. I mean, when the monkeys steal the police car and yeah, it's fun.
I feel like it's one of those, and I was reading something somewhere and they made a distinction and they said, this is a family movie, not a kid's movie. Because you get plenty of movies that are kids movies, and then when you try to watch them again as an adult, you're like, okay, well, I can see why 8-year-old me might have liked that, but nah, no thank you. But this is a family movie, and I think it's one that is done well. And if you want something like that done, give it to Joe Johnston, because he is able to do that with, I mean, even I think Captain America: The First Avenger is still, I mean, that's one, even though it's got some more serious tones and got some, fighting and some more action and whatnot. But, it's very, I think, watchable for just about the whole family. The Rocketeer, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I mean, pick any of those that he's done. And I think he does a really, really great job of being able to balance it so much so that it's not too childish, but it's also not so far over a kid's head that they can't relate to it or understand it. And I think he's, if you want that balance, you get a director like Joe Johnston to do that. And like you said, it's just a good balanced cast with some comedy. You've got David Alan Grier, you've got Robin Williams, but not like, we have some moments that kind of teeter on the edge of a little screwball comedy, but it never quite tips over. Okay, one of the other things I was thinking about with this too is, and I think this is the point, Pat, you were trying to make just a second ago, is I think the story does a really good job of consequences, like teaching kids about consequences, but also teaching adults about consequences, because, and this is maybe my only criticism for the movie, otherwise the action, the adventure, like all that stuff, we'll talk about the CGI here in just a second, but apart from that, I think my only criticism for the story itself, the screenplay, the story, that piece of it, is it seems to come really late in the movie when he reaches the realization that he's acting like his father. Like that moment where the kid has started to turn into a monkey, and he's kind of like whining and crying, and he's like, hey, cut it out. There's no crying, never helped anything. Crying never did it. And then he makes the statement, he kind of real quickly, he's like, wow, 26 years in the jungle and I still turned out like my father. And I think I would have liked that, because there was so much of that in the beginning of the movie, and that was kind of like, that was the catalyst for him to run away from home, and probably his parents thought that's why he ran away from home, and why they spent so much time searching for him. And the relationship between him and his dad was at sometimes very front and center in the movie, but then at other times very below the surface of the movie, especially when you realize, and I don't think I realized this until just a few years ago, that the character of Van Pelt is played by the same actor that plays his father. So, so there's a little bit of that in there too. Like, well, my dad is trying to kill me with a gun, kind of a deal. And I kind of wish there would have been more of that earlier in the movie, not to the point where you need to like bring down the humor and the family nature of the film, but a little bit more of that struggle of him, maybe acting like his father. And I don't know, maybe kind of coming to realize like, oh, maybe these are some of the reasons why my father acted that way, or wow, my dad acted this way. I really don't want to do that. And yikes, here I am doing it. And it really only seems to happen that one time. And I think, again, that's about my only criticism for the actual storytelling, is pepper some more of that throughout, because I felt like that might have been something that was missing from the character development of Alan as a character.
Right.
Yeah. So otherwise, and we'll talk in just a minute about, I was going to ask you guys about the CGI piece of it, but before I ask that, was there anything else about the story? Anything else about kind of how the story was handled, how the characters were handled?
I like happy endings.
Yeah.
I like the way they handled this one.
Yeah. It had a little bit of an It's a Wonderful Life kind of an ending to it, especially with the song being played on the piano, and it's a Christmas party, and
and
my buddy Alan Parrish, the richest man in town.
Right. Well, and then we've seen this in not as much Next Generation, but I want to say Voyager, and maybe Enterprise did this a little bit too. But we've seen this in Star Trek, right? Like, the various episodes, The Year from Hell and all this, where, you get to put, spoilers for that kind of stuff, but you get to put your characters in the absolute worst, setting, things are going bad, real bad, not good. But because you're able to rework it, you know, you can right the wrongs. You can skew the timeline, if you will, back into the correct reality. And I like that. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let me ask you guys this, because this is during the era of big time CGI, like starting to kind of make its mark on movies. We've had Jurassic Park, we've had Terminator 2. We're just a few years away. We're kind of very, very close to when the special editions, the Star Wars special editions, are coming out. We're very, very close to getting to the point where they're going to be in production on episode 1, where, you know, CGI, I think, is takes a big leap there. In watching this one this time around, some of the CGI was a little rough, and some of it was very obvious that it was CGI. And there's a couple of times here and there, like Jurassic Park, I think, was done so well that it is very, very difficult to tell, except for maybe a few scenes. There's a couple of moments with maybe the velociraptors where it definitely looks a little CGI-ish, like the way they move. But there were, I don't know, like the design, I think in particular, the design of the monkeys. Like that was one of the things that I was like, it's a little rough. Now, I think they did a pretty good job of kind of balancing practical effects with the CGI, because you had a lot of the plants when the vines were growing, and you had that one plant, the yellow plant, that was going to try to eat them, you know, and stuff like that. That was good practical stuff. Those were either puppets or animatronics or whatever. But I was going to ask you guys, in a movie like this, where it is kind of a fantastical, magical adventure, does it matter if the CGI looks a little rough? Like, does it bother you, or can you kind of play that off as it's a movie about a magical board game? It's okay. I don't care that the monkey CGI looks a little rough around the edges, or you know, I don't care that, you know, this scene maybe doesn't last well, doesn't hold up over time. Does the fact that it's a fantastical, magical movie change any of that, or do you watch it and just like, that's not the highest quality CGI that we could have had?
It doesn't bother me, but I think part of the reason it doesn't bother me is I write it off to of a time.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it was for the time. Some of it, I think, is probably also the magic of it all. Like, why worry about the fact that the monkey's not perfect when, you know, a house just split, and as soon as they win the game, the house is going to be put back together.
Right.
Like,
right.
You know, I guess that's my.
I'm not adversely affected by that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I'll note it.
Yeah.
You know, like my great friend and mentor of mine would always say, I don't judge, I merely observe. And so it's kind of like, okay, yeah, all right, that CGI looks a little, but I don't, that won't take me out of a story.
Sure.
I mean, usually when I get wrapped up, it's like, if it's a good story, if I care about the characters, like that will win out over just about like anything else. And so I really don't mind, because that doesn't get in the way of the stories. I mean, and I guess I'm saying in other words, what you guys have already said. I mean, it's about monkeys running rampant and, you know, stealing police cars. I get the humor. Okay, it's monkeys causing mayhem, and now we've got to do a thing in the movie to, okay, like basically they're there to advance the plot from one to the other, or they're there because there's something that must be contended with, right? So as long as that's still happening in the movie, like how it looks doesn't necessarily affect me that much. I can really say the same thing about a lot of stuff. I know that, you know, let's go to another thing that we love, Star Wars. And I know we've talked about various Star Wars movies, and there's people that'll make comments about the acting or make things, and it's like, yeah, okay, like I mean, I get it, but it's still more Star Wars, more better, and you're unfolding a story that I find compelling. So I'm really going to be like, okay, I see it, and then I'm going to move on. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
and then and then the 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 rational side of my brain, I don't know if that's rational, if it's the rational side of my brain, and will tell me like, well, CGI was kind of new, so it's not going to look as polished as it does now, right? And Bo, this is to your point, it was of a time, and it's kind of like, okay, well, why didn't they wait and do it when they had it all set and squared away? But then there's part of me that thinks like, I have enough engineers in my family that tell me that that's not how things work, and when you're trying to refine something. So it's like, maybe that's the best they could do at that time, and then you learn from it, so then the movies that come out 4 or 5 years later are better. Maybe not. Someone that's intelligent in this, just let me know. But I mean, I kind of well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to kind of compare it to like, right now cars have self-driving features, right? Like I can't hop in the road and Tony Stark it and say, take me to so-and-so place, and everything's good, right? But if we're going to get to that point, you got to kind of put the technology out there and then refine it. And hey, do you know what I'm saying? So maybe the self-driving technology is good enough just to kind of help me if I nod off and it steers the car back on the road. I'm not going to sit there and knock it and say, oh man, 30 years from now, look back and say, well, that was so lame. Like that. Blah, 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 blah. Well, no, you need to kind of have it here so then you can refine it for later. And I kind of look at the movies the same way, right? Like I look back and it's like, okay, the monkeys maybe looked not like the monkeys would look now, but I still love the story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of overstated my point. So
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. You're saying my opinion's invalid, is what you're saying.
No, John, your opinion is your opinion.
I have a button for that.
Oh boy.
You've been Pat-splained. No. I know exactly what you're saying. And I, at the time, I mean, I remember seeing this at the time and thinking, wow, that's really cool. Like we've got a giant stampede and none of those creatures are actually there. And we have these monkeys like running rampant today. And I think one of the interesting things is even though there are some parts that watching it today are a little rough around the edges. And I think I'm picking mostly on the monkeys, but I also think I'm picking on the monkeys because that's probably, and I didn't go enough into the like behind the scenes stuff to really find out. I'd almost guess that was probably the hardest CGI to do because those monkeys
they
are
move
doing
so much, they move so
Right.
frantically
Yeah.
and phonetic.
Yeah, that too.
Phonetically,
Yeah,
maybe is the
phonetically,
word,
yeah.
or I don't know.
Yeah.
They moves a lot.
Yeah. So that's probably why. Like cuz the rest of it, I mean, the rest of the CGI looks really good. I think also part of the problem is you're within a couple years of Jurassic Park, and like it's hard to compare anything to Jurassic Park because that is, I mean, even though that's 2 years before this, that's peak CGI. And there are even times now where I watch something and I'm like, why are certain things now not as good? I've heard a lot of people say this recently, was a lot of the CGI now doesn't look as good when you compare it to like Jurassic Park. You're like, why does Jurassic Park from the early 1990s look so much better than some of the CGI we're getting in some of the Marvel movies or, some of the stuff that was made this year? Why does it look better? And most of when I kind of read up on that or follow on those discussion threads, most of the reasoning behind it that I get is because now it feels like so many of these movies use so much CGI and it's very much a turn and burn mentality. Like we got to make 3 of these movies this year. So hurry up. And you don't have the same kind of quality control because you're farming out your CGI to like 4 different companies as opposed to just having ILM work on it, or just you have complete control over who's doing the CGI because when you did it with Jurassic Park, it was pretty much they had control over every piece of CGI work that was being done. They could control the quality. They had, their timeline figured out. Whereas now, and I'm just using this as an example, but let's say Disney wants to make a movie. They might say, okay, well, we need this little portion of the CGI. We need this company in this country to work on that. Now we need all of the shading and shadows and everything else. This company over here is going to work on that, and they're in this country, and human skin tones. We're going to have this company work on this. So I think you've got too many cooks in the kitchen, and that's why some of the stuff today maybe is not where you'd expect. If Jurassic Park and even this movie is how CGI was in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, and you're looking at that going, that's 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it sometimes we don't seem to have advanced very far in our CGI quality? I think that could be part of it. Is it's quantity over quality at this point, it seems like, in a lot of situations. But yeah,
Well,
really it was the monkeys, and it only was just like for half a second. It didn't completely take me out of the story, but I was, as I was kind of watching it with a critical eye, I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, the monkey CGI it hasn't aged as well as some of the rest of it, but it's a story about a magic board game that makes things come out of the jungle portal, and monsoons happen inside of houses, and it's okay.
Right. Does it ever affect, do you think, watching it on a TV that's, like a high definition television? Will that affect how you see the CGI? If you've got the TV set to a very saturated color palette because you like it to pop. I mean, that was kind of the first couple of times I was watching movies at home, and then I went back to the theater like after COVID, and it was like, oh wow, I really have all the colors of the rainbow in my TV at home. I've got to kind of change this.
Yeah.
Will that kind of cause the CGI to appear? Now, if you're talking about the way the movement happens, obviously no. But I mean, will that cause you to see the CGI in a slightly different way, do you think?
I think it can. I mean, watching Jumanji this time around, I watched it on my phone, so I wasn't watching it on a big screen. But I will say that I have a lot more control over what the picture looks like on my TV at home, because I'm very meticulous about the settings that I have and what's turned on and what's turned off, and what the different saturation points of the color are, and the HDR and all those other settings. And I'm a little picky about my home TV setup. So definitely, I think it looks different, and I would be curious to then run it through my TV here at home and just kind of see if it looks any different, rather than having just watched it on my phone. But no, yeah, I think that can make a big difference. I try to have, for my TV at home, I try to have it set kind of as close to what you could get at a movie theater as possible, like as close to what the original directors would have intended the colors to look like, and everything else.
And
yeah,
total nerd moment here. What are you using to set those settings?
You mean just like within the settings of the TV itself?
Well, what are your do you have something on the screen that you're using? Do you have a test DVD? Do you have a THX test pattern? Like, what is your baseline that you use when you tweak those?
For the most part, when I first got the TV, I was looking at a lot of the different Reddits and subreddits on, like, how do you have this type of TV, how are you setting up your TV so that you get as close to like cinema quality picture without some of the, like, maybe turn off the motion smoothing, or turn off this, or turn off that. And so that's basically where I kind of got most of that from. And then I would put in, I want to say, a couple of the first ones that I put in just to test it and see how it looked was, let's see, I tested it with 1917. That was one of the first 4Ks that I had. I think I tested it with the Joker, the first Joker movie. And then I have a few, I'm trying to think about the other 4K discs that I have that I would have tried it with. Might have been American Werewolf in London. I have one of the like Arrow video releases of that. So yeah, I mean, I tried a few that I knew, would have, especially sometimes, because where our TV is not, there's only like one particular spot in our house where our TV could be. And so, unfortunately, sometimes during the daytime, the lighting is not great. It makes it difficult to watch something that's a darker show. So anything like a horror movie or a zombie show, with a lot of things that will take place at night, unless I have that set to where, the black points are as black as they can be, and that kind of stuff, sometimes it'll make it a little tough to see. So I think I tested it with a lot of movies that would be a little darker anyway.
Sure.
But yeah, I think what I did initially was mostly kind of check out the Reddits and the subreddits for people who seemed like they were kind of like the, TV setting aficionados. And I was like, oh, okay, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. Let me try those settings and see how it looks. And then from there, I think I just kind of tweaked it to, what I preferred anyway.
Okay.
Got it.
I was just curious. A lot of people have different ways
Yeah.
of doing it, so I was wondering.
Well, and I used to use just like the presets that were already kind of built into the
No,
TV.
those are trash.
Yeah, they're not great. So that was kind of when I immediately I turned snob and I was like, yeah, no, let's do a little tweaking here. Like we can, if we're gonna spend this much on a TV and spend this much on a 4K Blu-ray player, we're actually gonna go in and we're gonna change some settings here so that we get the best quality picture we can get.
Yeah, I am learning so much by hearing this conversation because I'm at a much more remedial level than you gentlemen are. I'll just say, like, I mean, I know to turn the motion smoothing off. Like I know that one. But yeah, like just hearing the settings and then I'll set something and then it will be like, I don't know if I like this or if I'm just noticing the change. So I need to I just need to keep listening to what you're saying because like I'm switching between the presets just to get an understanding of how those presets change things.
Sure, yeah.
But then like you just said, am I really feeling it this way or are the presets just telling me that? And you know what I'm saying? Like the standard picture has much more grays in it. The movie seems to have more like of an orange color to it. And it like just the standard settings. And I'm like, well, neither of those really look right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm fascinated by this and I really enjoy hearing you talk and how you guys set your
and
TVs up.
I think because you have a 4K now, don't you, Pat?
Not TV. We have a 4K,
Not TV, but you have the 4K player.
Blu-ray player. The TV would be the next thing.
Okay. Yeah, because I think probably the best way to do that would be to pop in a couple of different 4K movies that you really like, and then you could kind of like, tweak it from there to see. Because that's one of the other things I've kind of learned from some other folks as well is a lot of people, and I knew this was kind of the case, but I think a lot of people assume that when they go buy a 4K movie, like for example, older movies that they sell as 4K Blu-rays, people will buy those and be like, well, I don't understand how this is 4K because it's still kind of grainy. Like, well, that's the point. Like the point of the 4K is that you're supposed to get as close to what the original, like from the moment it was put on film to that film being put into theaters, it is supposed to be the most authentic visual you can possibly get. Does that mean that it's going to be absolutely crisp and smooth and all of that? No, not necessarily. Like if it was, however it was filmed, this is as close as of right now. This is probably the closest you're going to get to how the director saw it when he was filming it and editing it and putting it together. But that doesn't necessarily mean, because I've heard some people complain about 4Ks and they're like, well, it's dark and it's kind of grainy. I'm like, yeah, because they filmed it that way. Like that's what it's supposed to be. Like it's actually sometimes the 4K will bring out film grain even more. And that's on purpose. Like you didn't get a defective 4K just because it did that. Like that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
So yeah, I think for you, if you're changing some settings on your TV, stick in one because I think you have a copy of 1917. That one is a pretty good, like in terms of your colors, your lights, your darks. You got plenty of different scenes, the greens of like the grass and everything else. I think that would be a good one that would give you kind of a good baseline for, watch some of those scenes. Like, is this the right kind of? Is this the shade of green that I would expect to see here? And are the darks dark enough? When there's fire, is it the right color of orange? Because that's, when I used to just do the presets of stuff, I'd switch between a movie and a sporting event. And I was like, I don't think that's the right color orange that my Fighting Illini normally have. Or the Bears uniforms are looking a little red. I'm not quite sure because they're wearing the orange jerseys today. I don't think that's the color that they're supposed to be wearing.
Yeah.
Unless they're all suddenly like rookie quarterbacks, I don't think they're all supposed to be wearing red. That should be orange.
I appreciate the whole like it's 1917 and just starting with that and saying, okay,
And if the other thing with sports too, if you're watching sports and your team's uniforms look a little bit too green and yellow together, you should just switch off the TV. It means it's really not working. and you shouldn't watch those teams.
That's when that's when they've already won the Super Bowl, so we're okay.
Yeah, I mean, sure, yeah, if you want to go back like, I don't know, 50, 60 years, whatever.
All right.
But anyway.
50 or 60, I thought it was 15. That was the last, it was 2010.
Pat, time's just a number.
Okay, that's right.
Well, here, hold on.
What time was the fire in which we burned?
Well, there's that too.
It was my understanding that there would be no math.
Right.
It's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, this has been an informative segment on the pod. I really have enjoyed this conversation.
We've talked about monkeys. We've talked about high dynamic range. We've talked about all kinds of things. So I think, unless you guys have anything else, I think it's time for 3 questions.
Rock on.
All right.
I just want to say one more thing. Kids love this movie.
I do too, because I forgot, but you go ahead.
Oh, okay. The kids absolutely love this movie. Watch it as a family. And actually, we were flying, and Daniela found on the seat like the new Jumanji movies.
Oh yeah.
And was like, "These are great. Those are fun as well." And it's just I think they do a really nice job of kind of carrying on the tradition. And I want to say that they all exist in the same Jumanji verse. I don't think it's like a total reboot. I think it's like a new version. And it's cool. And we actually got the Jumanji board game to play. And it was like, oh, how are they going to do this? The game is really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's really a lot of fun the way they, it's like monkeys are coming into the house. You've got to run around, do these 3 things. And it's fun. It's a good time.
Yeah. The thing I forgot to say is James Horner.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't know how I forgot James Horner, because he's my favorite. And there was a few, as we always tend to point out, there were a few moments. Then I had to go back and look. I'm like, wait a minute. Both Braveheart and Jumanji came out this year, and I'm hearing some little hints of Braveheart here and there, especially a couple of the moments between Robin Williams and Bonnie Hunt's character, just kind of like those quieter moments. Maybe, I don't know if you wanted to consider it a little bit of a love theme between the two of them. Sounded like some moments of maybe like little sections of The Gift of a Thistle from Braveheart. I kind of heard that sneaking in there a couple times. So I'm like, yep, there he is. He's, finding the stuff he liked from the movie he made just a few months ago and pulling it back into this one. And so it's always fun. Anytime there's James Horner, like, it's always fun, because you always know you're going to get, and we talked, a long time ago about, well, did he plagiarize himself? And I think the consensus we had was, I don't care. The guy can do whatever he wants. And it's just kind of fun to see, just like how we talk about sometimes you see directors that have hallmarks and they have things that they repeat. I think in much the same way, it is fun to be listening to a soundtrack in a movie and know that it's James Horner and go, Braveheart. Oh, a little bit of Aliens in there. Oh, a little bit of Something Wicked This Way Comes. A little bit of,
yeah. And as we say, it might not have been his call to make it sound that way. It might have been, the 4 bosses that he has all saying, this is what you're going to write this thing to sound like. So it could be that, like, all directors and producers fall in love with the James Horner sound as well.
Right.
So,
that thing you did in Aliens, do it again.
Yeah, do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do it.
All right. It is time for 3. We're going to roll the dice and find out what 3 questions we have before us.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, before
I meant that to be kind of like the Jumanji drums, but I realized that there was like a little
it kind of flowed. It flowed into the 3 questions drums. Yeah.
It kind of floated. Sorry about that.
No, it worked just fine. Okay. Question number 1. What is your favorite board game? I'll start this one off by saying we made the mistake of trying to start a brand new board game at about 9:00 last night.
Oi.
And I'm sure that this board game will be very fun. My daughter, love her very, very much. She is very much a nerd. And several years ago, she had, I believe this was one of her birthdays. And because she's such a nerd, she wanted a science birthday. And so we bought like little flasks and beakers that could, you could put lemonade or Kool-Aid in or something like that. And so it was a very nerdy, sciencey birthday. And I think that was when we got her the periodic table of elements game. And so it is a board game based on the periodic table of elements. And we never played it. So it's been sitting. I mean, we did open up the box at one point and we, popped out all the little pieces and put them in sandwich baggies and things like that. But we never actually played the game. And so it's been kind of a running joke of like, hey, remember that game we got all those years ago and we never played it? Yeah. So now that the kids are done with school, like last night, said, hey, whatever happened to that game? We should play that game at some point. We ended up finding it. It was buried underneath the couch somewhere. And pulled it out, set it up, and we watched the 5 to 6 minute video that explained how you played the game. And when I say that I probably looked like a deer in the headlights the entire time that the rules were being explained and the setup was being explained, bless them both for being patient with me, because it sounds like my wife and my daughter at least understood a portion of how this game was to be played. I think our biggest problem was trying to start this at 9:00 at night. And I think I'm just sitting there like an idiot, just going, I have no clue what's going on here. It's science and I don't know. There's no math, but it feels like there could be math. Yeah.
Feels too math adjacent.
Yes, that's the best way
Just
to put
the way
it.
you're just the way you're describing it to me.
It was a little late at night and it was maybe too math adjacent and it was, yeah. Yeah, if it was, I feel like maybe at that point in the evening, if the rules were not as simple as like, I don't know, checkers, I probably wasn't going to get it. So, so anyway, we set up the board. We learned how to set up the board. We tried to start playing it. And then I think we all agreed that maybe by the time we had gotten to that point, it was close to 10:00. And we're like, you know what? Maybe let's try this when the sun is out. And then maybe that will be a better situation. So favorite board game as of right now is not the periodic table of elements game. That could change. That could change. I'm sure it's possible. I'm going to go with the one that might not be the obvious answer, especially if Bo was thinking he might know what my answer was for this one. I'm going to go with probably Scrabble.
There you go.
That's my favorite. Follow-up would be Trivial Pursuit, and I won't even mention the other game that no one will play with me.
Star Wars Trivial Pursuit?
Yes.
Yeah, no one's going to ever.
In fact, nobody will even play. Nora pulled out Star Wars Monopoly, and she just looked at it and kind of grunted. And I said, what's wrong with Star Wars Monopoly? And she goes, it reminds me too much of Star Wars Trivial Pursuit. I was like, it's a totally different game. So
I knew I liked that kid.
Yeah. So in our house, it's either Monopoly, Washington, D.C. Monopoly, or no, we're not playing the Star Wars Monopoly. Okay.
Trivial Pursuit's always been high on my list. I do love a good game of Clue.
Yes.
But I do have somewhere on a shelf a very large, beautiful wooden Monopoly board with drawers for the money and the pieces and stuff. So do like me a game of that as well.
I am going to jump right out and say chess is my favorite. Love playing chess. I'm not very good at it, but I love it. So that's the big one. And then
you know what we got to do sometime? I spent too much money as a young man, and I bought the Star Trek 3D chessboard.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Oh,
so I have one. I haven't played in years, but we might have to get together and do that sometime.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah. That would be really cool.
But not.
I often forget that I have that until someone mentions.
But not starting at 9:00 at night.
No.
That would be unwise.
Yeah.
I I got a daily W on Clue. That's something Danielle and I share. She loves Clue. We found all the 2-player versions, the card version, the whatever versions. We've watched the movie. We've been to the musical.
There's a
Clue
really
is big.
fun version for the phone, believe it or not. I thought it was going to be stupid. It's not as bad as I thought.
That's good. Very cool.
I'm also not really a board game, but Yahtzee is always fun.
Yes.
Oh, here you go. I do like me a dice game.
Mm-hmm. All right, question number 2. What is your favorite movie that involves a magical or cursed object?
I'm gonna jump right out. I just went to my favorite movies list and like was scanning down them, and I've got to say probably like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, okay.
Solid.
That is not the one I actually thought you were going to go with, but
You know, Last Crusade could be up there too.
Okay.
I mean, maybe Last Crusade. Then it comes. Now our discussion is which Indiana Jones movie do I like better? So
sure, yeah.
You know, which one did you think?
I thought maybe you would go with the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, those, yeah.
That was my runner-up. I mean, Indiana Jones makes absolute sense, but I kind of, for some reason, I thought maybe you were. I almost thought you were going to go with the One Ring and be like, that was going to be your trilogy. But
yeah, that's a good point.
Must has it.
Well, we can mix it all together. We can just drop Gollum into the Last Crusade, and but in Latin, Jehovah spelled with an I, precious.
Oh my God! Like yeah, like
but
my
precious,
world is imploding right now with that little impression.
But precious, the penitent man will pass, precious.
Penitent man kneels.
The penitent man brings taters, precious.
Oh Lord.
Yes. You put Gollum in any movie, I think.
I would agree.
I'm fine with it.
All very good things. Yes.
No, precious. Yeah. You like me because I'm a scoundrel. Okay.
Wow.
I don't even.
I don't know where that's going.
No, you don't.
No, we don't need to follow that thread.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Nope. Scruffy looking. Nerf herder. Okay. All right, that's it.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
I'm going to go with, see, now that you said the Indiana Jones stuff, because I'm looking behind me, I've got, like, the Grail is right behind my head.
Mm-hmm. Well, go with what you were going. I got Indiana Jones up there, so you can, we work as a team.
Since it's already been covered, I'm going to go, I'm going more on the cursed end of things as opposed to magical, and I'm going to go Evil Dead.
There you go.
I'm gonna, because actually I also
Necronomicon.
I also have the Necronomicon Ex Mortis up here. There we go.
There, it's very nicely played.
There we go. Yep, I'm going Evil Dead. Bo, what is your magical or cursed object?
You guys don't make this easy. I can agree with everything you've said. I was probably going to go for Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
But then, as you guys were talking, I thought, I am and always have been a huge King Arthur nerd.
Mm-hmm.
So the Sword and the Stone.
Okay.
Excalibur is the thing that finally tipped the scales for me after listening to you guys. It sort of crystallized for me.
Okay. All right.
Yep. That's the one.
Pat, I could have gone the other way and I could have said, I am also going to choose the Holy Grail, but I'm going to do Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
There's so many options. Any one of these 3 questions could become like an 100th anniversary discussion point. So
we'll send you on a quest to find the Holy Grail. Good idea, oh Lord. Of course it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 3. What jungle animal would freak you out the most if it appeared in your living room?
I am going to jump right in because I've got one that just totally gets me. And then I hate to say it, I might need to take care of something. So I might have to sign off slightly early. I'm going to be that budgie guy in line. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. Because it's already appeared in your living room.
I'm going to say any of the jungle cats, right?
Yeah.
Like a tiger, like a leopard. You know, if it appeared in my living room, I feel like if a snake came in or a bunch of bugs, I don't know, like, and just in my mind, I feel like I could get out. But I feel like if it's a big cat or any of one of those things, I feel like, yeah, that would probably freak me out pretty good.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's where I'm going.
Okay.
All right. And then I'm sorry, I'm going to have to listen and hear you guys' responses, but I am going to sign off briefly, and then I will catch up with you next time.
Oh, no worries.
All right.
All right. See you, Pat.
See ya.
What about you? What's going to freak you out if it shows up in your living room?
Okay, honest to God, just about everything. But I was picturing my living room with an elephant in it would be a problem.
Oh, yeah,
You know?
that's true.
Just sort of like, oh God, you don't fit in my living room sort of moment, you know?
Well, I started Google image searching large animals that would come from the jungle, and apparently the green anaconda is capable of growing up to 30 feet and weigh 500 pounds.
How about no?
So no, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, to quote the drop that they use regularly on that the producer of the Greatest Generation uses regularly on that show. How about no?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
not happening. The response that the rest of my family gave were the hubcap-sized spiders that are in Australia.
Fair answer.
Yeah. Yeah, because I watched this movie and they have these massive spiders in that one scene in the attic, and I think, well, it's a movie, and those are fake, those are puppets. But no, there's a place in the world where that stuff's real.
And that's just a crime.
And that's just nasty.
That's right.
Ooh, it's an arachnid. Yeah. No.
Oh, Lord.
So. All right. Well, now that we've given each other the heebie-jeebies, I think it's about time to go. So this has been the first episode of the month of Monkey Business. The rest of our episodes this month, this one was Jumanji. Next time will be 12 Monkeys. Then we've got Repo Man is our 10th anniversary rewatch. We're going to rewatch that one from the very, very first year that we were doing the podcast. We watched Repo Man, one of our very earliest episodes. And then we finish out the month with Outbreak and Congo. Our Patreon episodes this month are To Die For from 1995, and our Patreon short is Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. I've been to Denver. Never been dead in Denver, so I'm not quite sure what that list is, but I'll be curious to find out. So, all right. Bo, thank you for being here.
Thank you as always, John.
Pat, who had to sign off a little early, thank you, Pat, for being here as well. Everybody, be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies, and we will see you back here next time.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock, they're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose, even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast, some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math, it's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Peace out and word to your mother. They're from the best decades, movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun.